Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Game Over Edmonton and Ottawa, here for a crossover episode here today after the Oilers defeated the Sens 3-1. I'm Maude Schoblocher. You may know me from Game Over Ottawa. Also run some of the Game Over social accounts as well. Pleased to be joined today by our newest Game Over Edmonton host, Ash. How are you doing, Ash?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on for this little guest crossover that we've got going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I haven't done any of these two-team crossovers yet this year, but glad to be doing an Edmonton and Ottawa one. As you can see, I got the Oilers t-shirt in the background as well from my dad. Got his side of the family from Edmonton, so I do have a soft spot for the Oilers. I would say they're probably my second team after the Sens. I don't get the chance to watch them as closely as the Sens, but it's always fun when they go head-to-head, although not so fun from the Ottawa perspective, as I did see the stat before the game.
13-2-1,
yeah,
yes,
the
I did see that.
13-2-1 last 16 games for Edmonton against Ottawa. They improved that to 14-2-1 now with the win here tonight. But yeah, after that win, I'll put it to you for how are you feeling for the Oilers heading into the holiday break with that win taking you into it?
No, I feel like Oilers fans have to be pretty happy, especially with the recent turn of play from kind of a lot of players. Some kind of typical mistakes, especially when I know the fan base was looking to chew Bouchard over like over 4, but I mean, we are like 8-2 in our last 10. We've defeated some really good teams over the break, or over the last month, I should say. And we're looking at, I think, a second place spot in the division,
That's right, you moved up.
uncontested. Yeah. So yeah, I've seen no reason not to be happy, especially in a regular season where I feel like a lot of Oilers fans are going to be kind of waiting for the playoffs. So the fact that things are going pretty comfortably, which was not the case last year, I think the Oilers are in a really good spot.
Yeah, it's a little bit like last year, not as bad of a start, but sort of the slow start still this year, and then climbing your way back up. Because
Yeah.
really, on paper, the Oilers should be first in this division every year, pretty much. It
Yeah.
doesn't always start off that way, but it seems like it evens out that they get into at least the top 2 spots by the end of the year. And
Yeah, I think we've been second place for every year for quite a while at this point. There's always one team in the Pacific, either if it's Vancouver or Vegas or even Calgary, that seems to have that better year. And, the Kings are the classic third Pacific team. I bet we'll probably see them in the first round again 4 years in a row. So I think that would be.
Oh God, it might be
I,
heading
I,
towards that matchup again, eh?
oh man, that'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, from the Ottawa perspective, we have to be pretty happy too, in that we actually do finish the first half of the season before the Christmas break actually in a playoff spot for once, which is the first time since 2017. They did have the chance to move up to third in the division if they did win today. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it done, but I think most fans would be pretty happy with a wild card spot just in general. Our standards are much lower here in Ottawa, but I don't know, going into this game, I think it was 8 wins in the last 10 for both teams. It seemed like two really hot teams that have been also scoring a lot of goals too. I was kind of surprised that it ended up being a really low event game.
No, I thought I thought this game, like especially in the third period, I thought the Oilers with the lead kind of definitely clamped down. There were still some chances of both ways, especially that little bit of Ottawa right before the empty net, where I thought they kind of came alive a little bit. But I thought, since I feel like if you're an Oilers fan, one of your worries is kind of like how they are defensively. But I think the Oilers really played their system very well today. And on the Ottawa front, I mean, if you're an Ottawa fan, even with the loss, I still think they looked pretty good at some points. Maybe a few too many penalties, but 8-2 over the last 10, a playoff spot. Especially given the recent performances of the Red Wings and the Sabres, I feel like you got to be really happy.
Yeah, considering the circumstances the hot play from the Sens lately, this is probably like the least frustrated we could be after a loss like all season, really. Like there's been
Oh yeah.
a few games this year where it's like, okay, I'm not really mad because I expected us to lose, and I feel like heading into this road trip facing the Oilers on the second half of a back-to-back was kind of already looking like a scheduled loss. So the fact to me that it wasn't a complete blowout, and like you said, with the Sens taking a lot of penalties too, the Oilers only managing to get one power play goal, to be honest, I think I texted you earlier, is that that's kind of a win for me. Just like, it didn't look like the Sens were going to win this game, but just managing to keep it close and not getting completely destroyed with, Ullmark leaving the game early, having to put the backup in there for the second straight game, like playing twice in 2 nights for Levi Merelainen. That wasn't easy for him, and he showed pretty well. So to be honest, this game could have gone a lot worse, and I'm just glad it didn't. Like, you shouldn't be happy about a loss where your team only scored 1 goal, but I feel like there's not too much to complain about tonight from the Sens side.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing really is that Allmark injury. I mean, we didn't know after it happened, and it took a little bit. We learned it was an upper body injury, but the prognosis on that I think is going to be really important, because part of the Sens' improved play of late has definitely been the turnaround of Allmark, who, was kind of playing, not so great to kind of bad, and then he turned it around, and he's been best goalie in the league since. So there's a lot of worry there, but I feel like that's kind of the only worry. Like, especially their PK. I thought their PK was very aggressive, and I really like aggressive penalty kills. And I thought it worked very well, especially on the 4 minute. There was a lot of time the Oilers power play just couldn't get started, or couldn't find the looks it wanted. Especially with Ryan Nugent Hopkins out, I felt like Arvidsson actually struggled quite a bit actually on the first unit this time.
Yeah, he was over there on that left wing spot on the boards, and he was kind of fumbling some puck retrievals and some.
Yeah, there were a few looks. There were a few looks he could have had where, I feel like RNH actually plays more towards the middle, towards the slot, and so that spot is usually occupied by either Bouchard or McDavid, and so some plays died on his stick over there. Those could have led to a goal, but first time on the first unit power play, there's really no power play that operates with one where you have McDavid, Bouchard, and Draisaitl on it. Like, those three move around and they move the puck with nobody else in the league, so it's gonna be hard for him to kind of get into that system a bit. But I mean, still a lot for the Sens to be proud of for only 1 goal.
Yeah, I think I don't know the exact number, but I was looking back at how many games over this stretch where they've been winning that they actually allowed power play goals against. They had 1 game against the Islanders a couple weeks ago, the only game that they lost this month up until now, where they allowed a couple of power play goals in that one. And the problem was that they were collapsing too much. There was a goal by Kyle Palmieri where he was he was playing the spot where Arvidsson was tonight for the Oilers, and he got the puck there, and they sort of just let him walk in and wait and pick his spot. And he just fired it in, where both of the power play goals that the Islanders scored on the Sens in that game, it was just too passive from the Sens penalty kill. But ever since then, I think the Sens have only allowed 1 power play goal until tonight, add another one to that total over this stretch. But yeah, the aggressiveness is a huge difference, and it's nice to see because all the fans could identify what the problem was with the penalty kill earlier in the season, and specifically that game where they were just collapsing too much. They were too passive. But I think it was the first Oilers power play today in the first period where I think in the first minute or so, the Sens actually had like 3 shorthanded chances the other way.
Yeah, no, it was like back to back to back. It was kind of crazy to watch.
Yeah, they didn't end up getting a shot on goal in any of them. Funny enough, they missed all of them.
No, I do remember that.
But yeah, it was nice to see, especially because with the McDavid unit on the ice, like that's got to be like the least eventful McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard power play shift that I've seen in a long time. So, and I feel like it was because the Sens were like actually pressuring like crazy. So that was nice to see. That's probably my biggest positive from the Sens in this game is the penalty kill, despite allowing that 1 goal. And you mentioned Victor Arvidsson as well. He did get the first goal in this game, so we got to give him credit for that. And it was from Connor McDavid setup. But I want to ask you about Victor Arvidsson in general, because he's one of the guys who, in free agency in the summer, I was kind of hoping the Sens to maybe acquire if they could.
Yeah.
They ended up going different routes with David Perron, Michael Amadio. Those were their guys that they acquired up front. But Victor Arvidsson, I think he was injured for most of last season with the Kings.
And he's he's been injured this season too.
Yeah, that's the thing. So because he was injured, he was able to. The Oilers were able to get him for a pretty cheap contract. But then he gets injured at the beginning of this season too. So I'm wondering, how has he been able to fit in on this team? Like you mentioned that it was a little awkward on the first power play unit, kind of taking Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' spot. But like, what's your assessment of his game so far this year?
So to start the year, he was playing on that second line with Jeff Skinner and Leon Draisaitl. And this was before the Oilers brought in captain and pulled Colson. And I thought he was playing very well. I thought Skinner was playing very well then too. But the Oilers had a terrible shooting percentage. They could not score on any of their shots. And that was part of their really bad start. The Oilers, despite getting the most shots in the NHL per game, were getting some of the least amount of goals per game. And Victor Arvidsson's inability to score on really good chances was part of that. But I thought he had really good drive. I thought he had some really good skating. And then he's injured in November, and he's out for a month. And he was originally just supposed to be day to day, and then we just kept getting no word on him. But now that he's back in the lineup, I thought outside the power play, he actually had a really good game today, especially on that first unit because he was taking Nugent's spot. I thought he played very well. Obviously, getting that goal set up from Connor McDavid. I know people like to deride Hyman for, like how hard is it to get a tap in goal? But
Yeah.
I think actually, I think it's not that simple. I mean, if it was, how many of the countless wingers have we seen McDavid have over the years? Why don't they get like 50 goals, right?
Yep.
It's not just about like standing in front of the net. It's about like being able to get open in front of the net for that easy tap in, right? And he had a lot of shots today. He had a lot of good chances. I thought I'm really happy that he's back in the lineup. And so especially when he's playing on those top two lines, I feel like he plays very, very well. So I'm really happy with his play today, outside of the power play. But that was short notice because we didn't know Nuge was gonna be out until like a minute before the game started. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned that ability to finish while playing with McDavid. Like, not everyone can do it because I still remember early in his career when he was playing with like Ty Ratty and who else?
My God,
like Benoit Pouliot as well. Like, just
or
so...
Jesse Puljujarvi, who I love, but has hands of stone. I swear to God.
So not everyone can do it, and Victor Arvidsson is a guy who has shown finishing ability before coming to the Oilers. So putting him up there with McDavid seems like it might be able to be something that works out, even though he was just filling in for RNH. Seems like a success, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Oilers free agency was really all about bringing in scorers because last season there was a lot of players on this team that had really good numbers, really good possession metrics, really good shots, but could not score.
Connor
People
Brown,
like Warren Fogle or Ryan McLeod, Connor Brown, very famously, until he found his game later in the season. And so, kind of, especially with the Kings signing Fogle, a lot of people looked at this as like a Fogle for Arvidsson trade. And one of the reasons we wanted to bring in Arvidsson over someone like Fogle was that he is going to be a scorer. He's going to be more of a pure scorer and someone that can really rely on the playmaking of someone like Leon Draisaitl on the second line, maybe even on the first line if Nuge ever plays third center with McDavid. So I think that it's been overall a success. Unlike Jeff Skinner, who has been playing down the lineup for a lot of the season. It was kind of poor defensive play, but that was something that we kind of already knew that was going to happen signing him. I mean, he's Jeff Skinner, right?
Yeah. And from the Sens perspective on this Arvidsson goal too, I do have to name and shame Travis Hamonic as well because the two plays where he just threw it up the boards. It's like, the first one, Brady Tkachuk was there and he kind of lost the board battle. So you can't like totally blame Hamonic. But then the thing is, Brady lost the board battle because the Oilers defenseman pinched up. And at the same time, McDavid is coming in. Hamonic doesn't see McDavid coming in and he just gets the puck back and throws it right back up to the same spot on the boards and right to McDavid. So like I just have to give a quick rant there as that's a goal that shouldn't be happening with a turnover like that. And we saw as well the third goal today. It was a little bit similar, but the puck going the other direction off of Hamonic's stick. A little bit of a gimme there. That's one of the things for Ottawa that was a problem tonight, was just a couple of goals that were just too easy for Edmonton with the turnovers. Like for the most part, I thought that Ottawa limited Edmonton's high danger chances. I'd have to look at the numbers to see exactly how it ended up being, but some of those turnovers were just like some absolute pizzas,
No, absolutely. And I feel like that's what the mark of a really good defenseman is. I feel like a lot of fans, look at good defense as hard in the corners, throwing big hits. But I think what good defense is is strong breakout passes. I think it's
Definitely.
being able to get it out of the zone really, really quickly. And you know who does that really, really well? It's Evan Bouchard. And you know who also does it really, really well on the Senators? It's Thomas Chabot,
Hmm.
who is quietly having one of the best seasons in the NHL. Very quietly, I
Yeah.
think he's one of the best defensemen in the league this year.
Hmm.
And when you see a defenseman who is not as good, maybe like Travis Hamonic, just try and throw a meatball off the board instead of a really strong pass, well, you kind of end up as 2 goals against for your own team.
Yeah, it sucks because you do need to have a bit of that physical element on your back end, but you need to have it combined with a little bit of puck skills as well. And like
Yeah.
a guy who does it well for the Sens is Tyler Kleven. He brings the physical element, and he's been improving with his stick handling and breakout passes a
Hmm.
lot. Like when he first came up to the NHL, it's like, okay, he's handling the puck like a grenade every time he gets it, but it's improving. Whereas Hamonic is like 34 years old or whatever now, and you don't really expect much improvement on something like that at this point in his career. But you
Hmm.
mentioned Evan Bouchard as well as being really good at moving the puck out of his end. However, on the one goal
Yes.
that the Sens scored that we do have to mention is that Evan Bouchard did have the turnover on that one, and
Yeah.
I do have to say, I think this is a little bit of the Erik Karlsson syndrome from back in the day, where when he was
Oh,
on Ottawa,
100%.
yeah, when he was on Ottawa, everything ran through him on the back end and even in the
Yeah.
offensive zone too. So the puck is always on his stick. He's playing, 30 minutes a night, 25 minutes a night. So there is going to be turnovers just because of how often the puck is on his stick. And
Yeah.
yeah, it just, there was back then with Erik Karlsson, there was a lot of people criticizing him just because of turnovers and stuff like that. But the guys like that make up for it with the offense.
Yeah, especially with how young Bouchard is.
Hmm.
You definitely every few games are gonna get a very Bouchard moment. I feel like last year he was able to clamp down on a lot of that. But if you remember, like 2 years ago, or when he was had to play under Duncan Keith, or early last season, or early this season, I feel like for this Oilers team, coming out of these long, deep playoff runs, and then you have to go into September, October hockey. It's kind of hard. Like I feel like that's kind of the reason why the Oilers have all these slow starts. Is it's kind of hard to you know, care all that much when you just come out of conference finals and Stanley Cup finals. Like this, it's an 82 game season. It's hard to, get into it. Not to excuse, but like that is I feel like part of the reason. And with Bouchard, yes, the puck the a lot of plays will run through him. They always start on his stick. He's a puck moving defenseman, just like Erik Karlsson. He's going to give up the puck a lot, and he does make a lot of mistakes, like he did today. I didn't think he had I thought he had an okay game outside of the big gaff, obviously, but um, yeah, there definitely are a lot of moments where the puck will just kind of Bouchard will make a little bit of a gaff, and it will end up in the Oilers net.
Yeah, and full credit to Nick Cousins as well for finishing on the breakaway.
Oh, that is a great pick by him too. To
Yeah,
be able to
because it
yeah,
wasn't
full
just a
credit there.
turnover where the guy like completely just passes it right to you. It was a bit of a steal as well from Cousins. Like
Yeah.
he pressured Bouchard to
Mhm.
create that a little bit. So while it does look bad on Bouchard for sort of crumbling under the pressure, it was like instigated by Cousins as well. And he's been quietly really good. Like later in the show, we're going to be doing a bit of a Christmas naughty or nice segment, which is who you would put from either team as naughty or nice, good or
Yeah.
bad play. And up until the recent winning streak, Nick Cousins would have been on the naughty list for me, but he's really picked it up lately. Like I'm just looking at his game logs, and if he had like basically no points on the season until like he just had like one or two until recently, and then he's got 3 goals and 3 assists in the last like if I count quickly here, well, just from December 1st, so however many games that is, I think that's 10 or 11 games, he's picked up 6 points, which is a huge jump. And the Sens didn't have Michael Amadio tonight. He got elbowed in the head last night, and somehow NHL player safety just ignored that happened whatsoever, and it wasn't looked into. But the line of Amadio, Cousins, and Pinto has been one of the Sens' best lines in all December. So even though we didn't have Mike Amadio on that line here tonight, it was nice that we got a goal from that line still, with Nick Cousins continuing to play really strongly for the Sens. And the other thing on Cousins, I thought that was kind of funny. I think it was in the first period when he had that altercation with Hyman. Was it?
Yeah.
It was Hyman on the replay. Hyman clearly gave him a shot. but
Yeah.
we couldn't really see what Cousins did before that because the replay started kind of late, right? When it
Yeah.
came back from commercial break, I was surprised that both of them ended up in the box. Like, were you surprised by that, or did you think it made sense for it to be even penalties?
I feel like when I went back and I saw it, it was a kind of a classic like it was one of those plays where it's like if there was no retaliation, no call, but the retaliation makes it like a 4-on-4,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, that's kind of how I feel. I feel like that's kind of a common call when you see a lot of 4-on-4s. It's kind of like there wouldn't have been one if there wasn't a retaliation, but the retaliation makes it a 4-on-4 because I feel like if you're going to penalize Hyman, like I feel like it was a bit of a penalty on Cousins, but I mean, Hyman definitely did give him a little bit of a shot to the face. He definitely was the more offending player in that altercation.
Yeah, and Cousins has been really good at drawing penalties for the Sens here too. And everyone before the commercial break, everyone was ready on Twitter to give him more credit for drawing another one. He didn't end up getting the benefit of the doubt from the referees there too, but
Mhm.
just that pest behavior as well as starting to produce a little bit of offense. Got to give a shout out to Nick Cousins on that here today. And then after that, I guess this is already into the second period, but later in the game, the Oilers do get the one power play goal from Zach Hyman. Another point from Victor Arvidsson on that one too. What did
Mhm.
you make of how they ended up scoring that power play goal? It was kind of a scramble in front of the net, not typically the way that the Oilers power play does score their goals, unless it's like Zach Hyman banking it in like off his body, but he was actually able to put it in with his stick.
No, I mean, I think that's part of why Zach Hyman kind of like is like different from all these other like wingers that the Oilers have like employed over the years. Is that he's very much like a go getter, very much kind of like a garbage man, clean up in front of those scrums, right? I can't remember if I think this was a coach that I was talking to once. He said and this is what he would tell all of his players. He'd be like, "You can't play like McDavid, but I want you to go out there and play like Zach Hyman because Zach Hyman's always like the hardest working guy out there." I remember like when he kind of signed that contract, people were like, "Whoa, that's kind of long." He's kind of getting a little, I don't know if you want to sign that into his 30s, but we're what 3 years in now, and he's still working just as hard, every game, especially after he came back from injury, I believe. So I think that's kind of just like the value you get from like a real hard worker,
Mm-hmm.
like Zach Hyman.
Yeah, he's got that hard work and determination that it's just like over the course of a season, he can't be denied. Like he had that slow start at the beginning of the year, but then he comes
Mhm.
back at full health and full speed, and he's just absolutely banging the goals in right now. Like I think they said on the broadcast 6-game goal streak, which might be 7 now with the goal tonight. Like he's been on fire lately, eh?
Oh, definitely. The Oilers' top unit, the Oilers' top players, McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Bouchard, have been absolutely stellar over the past couple of games. Um, I think it's been extremely impressive, like what they've all been able to do, especially Draisaitl. I think he's really making a case for the Hart Trophy this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from the Sens' perspective, it was the one sort of screw up on the penalty kill that they did have tonight. Just with the double coverage, I think it was Pinto. Pinto was already really covering Arvidsson, I think it was, at the side of the net, and then Jensen sort of backed over across to him kind of instinctively as the pass came from Draisaitl, and then the rebound just ended up being wide open there for Hyman because no one really picked him up. They sort of doubled up on Arvidsson, so that was a tough one there. The first goal of the game that goes in on Levi Marilyn, not much he could have done about that one. He did make the initial save, just couldn't get the rebound on a wide open Zach Hyman. So tough one there for the Sens. But other than that, their penalty kill was really strong here tonight. When they got that 4-minute double minor for high sticking, I was like, oh, this game is over. We're totally cooked at this point. But surprisingly, it was another solid penalty kill from the Sens. Like that's where this game really could have gone wrong was on that
Oh,
4 minutes.
definitely.
Could have been 3-1, 4-1 before the end of the second period there, but they managed to stick through it and keep the game close and entertaining for Sens fans, at least giving us a chance in the third period. Unfortunately, it unraveled pretty quickly in the third period as Adam Henrique scored to make it 3-1, and as I alluded to earlier, it was another Travis Hamonic turnover. I feel like this one isn't quite as egregious as the first one. it's a little bit unlucky how it kind of just bounces off the boards and misses Jake Sanderson's stick. He's not able to pick it up. And then, unfortunately, all of the forwards for the Sens had blown the zone at that point. I think they were kind of on a long shift already. They were trying to make a line change, so they weren't really fully committed to defense there. And the Oilers were able to capitalize. That third line from the Oilers as well, who was just forechecking like mad in that third period and
Oh, definitely.
hemming the Sens in their zone. It resulted in a goal on that one there. So what did you see on that play?
I thought I saw something that we'll probably talk about later in the when we do our little Christmas lists. That I think something that the Oilers have really, really desperately needed is from the third and fourth lines to just play better. To just play with more heart, play with
Hmm.
more drive. Make plays, and be able to forecheck properly. And I thought that tonight, I thought that they looked very, very good. For the first time in quite a while, I will say. Um, and I thought that, taking advantage of admittedly a bit of a weird bump, a weird bounce that came from Henrique, initially for checking on the boards there, and then being able to get wide open right in front of Marilinen. But I thought that was just the fruits of a very good game from an Oilers third and fourth line that really, really needed one.
Yeah, the reason that Hamonic ended up making that back pass behind the net was because he was under huge pressure from the Oilers' forecheck. I'm not sure which
Mhm.
guy it was exactly, but yeah, like you mentioned, the Oilers' depth just needing to play well, sort of regardless of the scoring, right? Because I feel like for the Sens, when they've lacked depth scoring earlier in the season, it's like, okay, these guys are playing pretty well, but they can't put the puck in the net. For the Oilers, though, maybe it's more like they just straight up need to play well and not get like caved in, right? They need to press the play into the other team's zone.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like have plenty of scorers. We have plenty of people who, if they are having kind of like a scoring touch, we can put them on like a top line with McDavid and Draisaitl. And with a pair like Bouchard and Ekholm, like we have plenty of top line quality minutes where we're getting a lot of offensive chances. We don't really have to worry a lot about defense. Um, and so then adding on to that would be a really good bottom six. But I feel like even kind of across this winning streak where we have such great play from our top two lines, we haven't had that great play from our bottom two lines. Um, and so I felt like tonight was kind of like a really good refresher for Oilers fans about this bottom six that we kind of committed to after the playoffs last year with re-signing Henrique and Brown and Yanmark um after and Perry after the playoffs.
Yeah, in that third period, the Oilers were just able to roll four lines. And, I'm checking the time on ice now, and McDavid and Draisaitl still did have a lot of ice time along with Hyman, probably mostly because of the power plays. But I felt like in that third period, and really as the game went on, like from the second period into the third period as well, like I wasn't even really noticing Connor McDavid that much. It was really one of his more quiet nights. But the thing is that everyone else for the Oilers got the job done of being able to shut down the Sens and protect the lead in the third period. So the Sens got a little bit going with the 6-on-5 at the end of the game. So, like from my perspective, it was nice that they at least were in it till the end, especially on the second half of a back-to-back. I know it's the second half of a back-to-back for both teams, but like you expect them to be totally gassed at that point. So the fact that they were able to keep pressing and they didn't even allow an empty net goal, and they kept getting set up in the Oilers zone. They didn't exactly get a lot of high danger chances or anything like that. The Oilers did a good job of keeping the Sens to the outside, but just the fact that the Sens kept pushing, I think, is a big positive because there's been many games in the past where they just unravel when they're down by a couple of goals, and it gets worse. It becomes like 4-1, 5-1, and it just ends up looking really ugly in the end. But I think the Sens fight till the end in this game, even though they didn't come super close to tying it or anything, I think was pretty admirable. So even though it was like for the most part in the third period, the Oilers shutting them down, I'm glad at least that it wasn't. There was a little bit at the end. I was like, oh, maybe we're gonna get one. Maybe we would get one to get back in it. And I was honestly kind of expecting it because, funny enough, the only goals that the Sens have scored with the empty net this year is when they're down by 2. So I was like, and they've never actually tied the game when they're down with the goalie pulled. So I was like, oh, they're totally gonna get one and then not tie it because that's just how it goes. But they didn't get the bounces in the end, and Oilers end up winning it 3-1. So pretty good. I'd say not a great game for the Sens, but it could have been a lot worse. So I'm not too mad overall. And from the Oilers' perspective, you're very happy going into the Christmas break.
Oh, definitely, I agree.
All right. So from there, after a quick ad read, we will throw it into our second segment. Shift. Oh, this is a rewritten ad read. I got thrown off here. Shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max von Hoot, Daphne Malboeuf, and Kevin Laramie. Sorry, I don't have the francophone pronunciations there, the Quebecois, every Tuesday and Wednesday for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. So, yeah, into the second segment, wanted to do a little bit of Christmas cheer here, although it's not entirely cheer because we're doing naughty or nice segments. I figured we could do sort of a top three for each team. And I'll just go a little quick on the naughties for the Sens here because we've already talked about it a little bit today. Is that the number one is Travis Hamonic, and I feel like it's not entirely his fault because most of it is just that Artem Zub has been injured for 90% of the season, and we have no one else to play in that spot. So, to be honest, the fact that the team's record is now as good as it is with Travis Hamonic playing top four this whole time is pretty fortunate. It's pretty lucky. So on one hand, sometimes I'm kind of like, oh, maybe I'm too harsh on him because the team is still winning now. But the thing is, it just analytically, it doesn't hold up. Like from friends of the show here, the Zubcast, they posted this stat earlier today. When Travis Hamonic is off the ice, the Sens have the 7th best 5v5 goals for percentage in the NHL at 55%. And when Travis Hamonic is on the ice, the Sens have the worst 5v5 goals for percentage in the NHL at 28%. So that's a huge drop from 7th best to worse just when this guy is on the ice. That's automatic number one on the naughty list. It's getting real rough. It's getting real rough continuing to watch him play, especially with Jake Sanderson. I don't know. You're really lucky on Edmonton that you have Matthias Ekholm to play with Evan Bouchard because we're watching Jake Sanderson. We're watching Jake Sanderson dragging around a bum out there pretty much at this point. Luckily, it hasn't totally tanked us, but yeah, that's my number one on the naughty list for the Sens. Who is your number one for the Oilers?
I mean, as much as it hates for me to say it, I mean, it does have to be Evan Bouchard.
Okay.
I thought that, I mean, it was his mistake that led to the goal against, right at the beginning of the game, which that could have ended up very badly for an Oilers team that on occasion can tend to, let a lead kind of take themselves over. But I thought after that, it's not terrible, but I'm gonna have to say Evan Bouchard number one for his first bad game and in a little bit since the Florida game, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And just over the course of the whole season, like he's on pace for I think a lot less points than last year, right? So it's not like he's totally like down in the dumps, but in terms of like
no, definitely not.
In terms of how you're ranking performances on the Oilers, though, it's definitely probably a mostly disappointing season for him so far.
Actually, I actually wouldn't say that at all.
Okay.
He's a lot of the reason why Bouchard's point pace is off is because the Oilers power play has not been working. And before this recent kind of stretch of games, the Oilers like top unit where Bouchard gets a lot of his points. It just hasn't been performing. They were kind of one of the worst power plays to start the year, but since then he's been playing very, very well. And he's been getting assists, and he had a point streak going into this game of quite a bit, actually.
Okay.
And he's been getting a lot of assists recently. So I think that point pace has definitely come up. And when you look at on ice results, in terms of goals, goals for and against, expected goals, shot share, he still really is one of the best in the league, in terms of like top 10, top 15. I think he's still one of the most underrated players. I think he's specifically one of the most overrated players, but he does lay a bit of an egg every now and again. And I think on this game, he kind of started out with a bit of an egg.
That's fair. That's fair. And since it ended up being like a pretty low event game today, like for the rest of my naughty and nice list, I did go with like sort of for the season as a whole. So like I couldn't really pick anyone else out from this game. My second naughty list for the Sens is Anton Forsberg as the backup goalie. I spoke about this a little bit on the last show that I did last week. Whereas he is so hot and cold, and he's injured now. That's why we had Levi Merilainen coming in when Olmark got hurt. But the fact that Forsberg has 2 shutouts on the season, and yet he still has like a 886 or like 889 save percentage or something like that, is just insane. And like on one hand, it's good that he can get performances like a shutout, but on the other hand, it's like Russian roulette when you're throwing him in net. Like we were talking about like Linus Olmark having to play both halves of a back-to-back. They didn't end up doing it this weekend, but the previous back-to-back last weekend they did, just because it was he was doing so good. And the last time that they put Anton Forsberg in on the second half of a back-to-back, he allowed, I think it was 3 goals on 13 shots or something like that. So it sucks because we all really like Anton Forsberg. He's a great guy, and he's played better for the Sens in the past, but it's just getting to the point where you don't really feel like you can trust him as a reliable backup. So he's second on my naughty list for the Sens this season. What do you think for Edmonton?
I mean, so if we're gonna go to the season, because outside of the one kind of egg from Bouchard to start the game, I thought there wasn't really an Oiler that kind of stood out as playing particularly poorly this game.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're gonna go to the season, I know it's my number 2, but the number 1 egg over the season has clearly been Jeff Skinner.
Okay, yeah.
He hasn't earned the trust of his coaches with his poor defensive play, and so he's found himself down the lineup playing on the 3rd and 4th line. And Jeff Skinner is a pure scorer. The only thing he can do is score goals, and he can't really do that if he's playing with people like Adam Henrique or Derek Ryan, people who are not very good playmakers. And so he is kind of part of the reason why that bottom six is kind of getting caved, because he's a terrible defensive player, and this was kind of known when you brought him in. And now that, because he's like not playing with Draisaitl and McDavid on the top 2 lines, he brings pretty much no value to this team, unfortunately. And it sucks to say, because I've been a big Jeff Skinner fan. My second favorite team is the Hurricanes, and I've loved him since he was playing there. And I always have a soft spot for Buffalo, so I've loved him when he was in Buffalo. And so to see him kind of play this poorly, it kind of breaks my heart just a little bit as a fan of the guy. But he has been, definitely the biggest failure of the Oilers' free agency, next to the loss of a certain Dylan Holloway, who has been scoring quite a bit, who would play very, very well in the spot that Jeff Skinner currently occupies.
Yeah, I feel like if the Oilers hadn't spent that cap space on Jeff Skinner and then they just keep Holloway instead, like first it's like a similar cap hit. Like Holloway is not even making that much considering he got offer sheeted. It's like 2 million something. So yeah, that's got to sting a little bit. And yeah, Jeff Skinner, just if he's not scoring, he's not. Like if he's not scoring, you don't want him in the top 6, but then he's the type of player that you don't really want in the bottom 6 ideally anyway, because like you said, he's a goal scorer. Those bottom 6 guys aren't really going to be able to set him up. He did get that one really good chance that was Levi Merilainen's best save of the night, so at least I mean, I don't know if he has been getting a lot of chances, but at least he did get a really good scoring chance here today.
No, I thought today was definitely his best game in a while.
Yeah, like do you think the goals are going to be coming for him soon, or do you think it's like he's not even getting the chances?
I think he's not even getting the chances. I think today was kind of a good, a good sign that maybe that would change in the future, because his line was playing better. But like, he's a goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not playing him with the playmakers, like, well, like, how's he going to score any goals? Like, I don't know. Like we brought Jeff Skinner on. Gave him a no move clause or a no trade clause for the 1 year that he's here, because he's only here for a year, and we're not kind of playing to his strengths. And I think that's part of that. His defensive game has kind of caught a negative favor with the coaches, and Chris Knobloch. But I'm not in that locker room. That's obviously the coach's decision. Our top 2 lines with Captain and Podkolzin are playing very, very well. So there's really no reason to take someone like Captain off the second line and put Jeff Skinner there, especially with his play as of late. And I mean, I obviously I hope it turns around, but unless we see some better results, that hopefully this game is indicative of, I don't really see that think that that's going to be coming.
Yeah, it's tough when a goal scorer isn't even getting the chances. And yeah, to sort of segue on that topic, my for my third on the naughty list, I'm kind of cheating and I'm not putting anyone because I have a couple of narrow misses. I mentioned earlier the Pinto, Cousins, and Amadio line, which has been the best line for the Sens in all of December, which is shocking because all three of these guys before the month of December were like awful, like absolutely awful. Like in terms of getting the chances or not for a goal scorer, Shane Pinto was also not getting the chances at all until recently. And then as soon as he did start getting the chances again, you could see that that the goals were going to come and that he was going to break out of his slump. I think it was like 19 or 20 games without even a point. He wasn't even getting assists. But he has managed to pick it up and get 5 goals in the last 5 games. If he didn't do that, he would be on the naughty list. But I think things are trending back up for him. Hopefully things can trend a little more upward for Skinner again soon if he starts getting some chances at least. Then you can see a bit of life in the player there. But yeah,
Mhm.
also the narrow misses in Cousins. I talked about him earlier already, so I don't need to get into that. And Mike Amadio too. The Sens missed him in the lineup tonight. Like it's Pinto been scoring those goals in the last 5 games, and Amadio's been assisting on pretty much all of them too. So he's a guy that they brought in, I think 2.5 million cap hit. Not expecting a lot of offense from him, sort of just that solid two-way play. But even though you're not expecting a lot of offense from him, he had like 2 points in the first like 15 games, something like 4 points in the first like 25 games or so, which he's not a huge point producer, but his last couple seasons he was getting like 14, 15 goals at least. So you would expect a little more life out of him, and he was trending up getting those assists on the Shane Pinto goals lately. So again, this is he would have been on the naughty list, but he avoids it. And I think the fact that I can't even really put 3 obvious choices on the naughty list is really good for the Sens, because for once we're actually looking kind of decent. And like, I don't know yet if you have a third one for your naughty list, but both of these teams doing pretty good right now. I'm pretty happy that I can't even name a third player that I'm annoyed at.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Amadio out, I think you kind of saw it as with that second line. With outside the goal, they were on ice for a lot more shot attempts against. I feel like Amadio
Hmm.
probably helps juice that Ottawa offense that looked a little just looked a little out of it today. I think that probably helps them a little more than I feel like. Well, it was Riley Grigg
Yeah,
on the second
it
line
was
today.
Greg filling in, and
Yeah,
he's sort of like a support guy on whatever line he's on. Like
yeah.
he's gonna run in and try to retrieve the puck and go to the front of the net and try to be like baby Brady Kachuk. Um, but you're if you're adding him to a line, he's not necessarily gonna drive play or anything like that. So yeah,
Mhm.
it was a different look for that line, and it was good that they still got the goal from Cousins. But hopefully Mike Amadio is back soon after the break. Narrowly
Yeah.
avoided being on my naughty list, but do you have a third choice for your naughty list?
I mean, for the season, I mean, up until the recent, I feel like many Oilers fans would look at Stuart Skinner and be like, "Yeah, that's the guy. The Oilers need to fix their goals," and that was true. The Oilers had some pretty bad goaltending for the start of the season, just like we did last year. The Oilers had some pretty bad goaltending, but now I think Skinner, thought he played a good game today. I
Mm-hmm.
thought he has played a great last few games, and so I hope that that's some after being on the naughty list for the first few months of the season, I feel like he's been really turning it around. And so I'd say that's kind of like my only other complaint, especially with like in terms of like this game and the season kind of outside of the kind of third, fourth line struggles that I talked about. Um Especially with this game, I don't really have much to complain about.
Yeah, when the Sens played the Oilers previously, about a month ago, the Sens were in a stretch of sort of making goalies look good that really were not performing good at that point. Like they got shut out by Spencer Martin. They lost to Ilya Samsonov. And I was looking at the game logs of these goalies, and in between those games was Stuart Skinner. They lost to Stuart Skinner, only scoring 2 goals on him. I was looking at the game logs of all those goalies, and they were all like absolutely atrocious stats, except for the games where they played Ottawa. So then when this game started, I was like, you know what, I should check in on Stuart Skinner. I wonder how he's doing now. But his like last 10 games or so, outside of that crazy game against Florida, which like Bobrovsky was also bad in that game too, so it's a bit of a mulligan. Stuart Skinner has actually been doing way better lately. Kind of similar to last year.
Definitely.
Kind of similar to last year where it looked rough at the start and then he really turned it on in the second half, eh? Like not quite at the second half yet this year, but he's trending back up again. So he won't get coal in his stocking, but earlier in the season he might have, eh?
No, he had the warning. He had the warning, but looks like he's gonna be having a happy Christmas morning.
Cool. And yeah, for the nice list, I guess doing a top 3 makes it a little funny for the Edmonton Oilers because McDavid and Draisaitl are like the obvious 2. It's like a free space on bingo, right?
Yeah.
But if there's anyone else that you would throw onto your nice list, who else would you put in the top 3 as like best Oilers this year?
I mean, we can look at McDavid. McDavid is always going to be amazing, but I do want to take a moment and say, yeah, Draisaitl is obviously great. I think Draisaitl has been the best player in the NHL this year. I think that he has exceeded his play on a second line, no doubt. Playing with waiver pickups, Kapanen, and
that's right.
trade for a draft pick and Colson, who is kind of like looking to maybe burning out in Vancouver a little bit. So I think Draisaitl is currently the favorite for the Hart Trophy, I would say, alongside Kaprizov and McKinnon.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like most out of market people, they would just say like, oh, you can never count Draisaitl for the Hart because he plays with McDavid, but they're not even playing together on 5-on-5.
Right, and he's won a Hart Trophy already too. It's not like Draisaitl has always played in McDavid's shadow, especially come playoff time.
When he won the Hart Trophy previously, was McDavid injured for some of that season? Was
nope.
that? Oh wow, really? So I'm not even remembering correctly. I thought it was like McDavid was injured and then Draisaitl went Super Saiyan to make up for it. But I think earlier in the season when McDavid did get injured, there was a couple of games there where Draisaitl just went off. Like you think, oh, the Oilers are off to a bad start and they're just screwed without McDavid too. But then Draisaitl shows that he can just carry the team as well. Even though McDavid's always there as long as he's healthy. But Draisaitl can step up and take over when he needs to.
Oh, absolutely. And so even with free space, I still think he deserves an extra first spot. Outside of those two, though, I mean, Zach Hyman, after the Team Canada snub, has been just playing absolutely wonderfully. I'm pretty sure he's on a goal scoring streak now too. Like he's playing just out of his mind. He's playing amazingly.
That's probably another case where it was a rough start, so you wouldn't have expected to be saying this like 3 months ago. Although, I mean, maybe you would because you would expect him to have the bounce back, right?
I totally expected him to have the bounce back. I think the Oilers' early struggles were just due to a poor shooting percentage, something that's inherently volatile. Yeah. And I basically, if you can ask my family, I've been telling them, is like, just don't worry. It's like their shooting percentage is terrible. Like they will start scoring goals again. And would you look at that? The Oilers are hanging 7 goals on the Minnesota Wild, like the one of the top teams in the league. They're putting 5 goals in a loss to the Florida Panthers. Like there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, which is exactly why I'm glad that it was only a 3-1 final here tonight, because I know that it could have been a lot worse with how the Oilers have been clicking lately on offense. So for my nice list, it's kind of a free space again with Linus Ullmark. We've just been pretty much the whole month of December. The number one topic on every show has been Linus Ullmark is finally back to Vezina form. It's kind of like Skinner, the way he started the season too, where the numbers didn't look good at all. Ullmark would kind of have one good game and then a couple of really bad games, and it would drag down the stats. But then he's just been on an absolute heater all month. And I think the biggest question for Ullmark when they acquired him was, can he be a starter for like 65 games and carry a team to the playoffs that way? Because on Boston, like he was kind of sheltered, always alternating with Jeremy Swayman. Like in his Vezina season, he was kind of the obvious number one. I think maybe they were doing like 2 games for Ullmark, 1 game for Swayman rotation back then. But then last season it was straight up just like flipping every game. So even in his Vezina season, I don't think he had a super high games played total, but the fact that we were able to just play Linus Ullmark like every game in December until this weekend has just been great. And hopefully he's not injured for too long, because if he is, it might start looking a little bit sketchy again for the Sens. But just having this goaltending is such a change of pace. Obviously, during a rebuild, your goaltending's never really going to look that good because your defense sucks, your team play sucks overall for most of that time. But as the Sens have been trying to improve out of the rebuild, their goaltending hasn't done them any favors the last few years. So Linus Ullmark giving the Sens the best goaltending they've had since Craig Anderson back in 2017, with the last really good year for Craig Anderson. He's the easy number one on the nice list for me.
Oh, definitely. You gotta be so happy, especially like when as a team you say, okay, this is the year we are coming out of the rebuild. We are striving for the playoffs. Going out and getting a starter like Ullmark just has to be like the most wonderful news. I'm pretty sure it was announced like an hour before Game 7 too. It was like kind of wild.
Yeah,
Like I was like looking at my phone, like I was like with my friends, and was like, wait, guys, Ullmark is a Senator.
It was
No,
so funny.
you gotta be super super happy.
It was so funny
Especially
because
with
I was super nervous for the Game 7 of the finals. I'm sure you were too. But then all of a sudden you see the Linus Ullmark trade, and it's like, oh shit! Suddenly, like things just got real for Ottawa, and it was a bit of a distraction. I have to wonder if the timing of that trade was a little bit of a fuck you to Gary Bettman from
a
the
little
Sens.
bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, from
That
the
was
Sens
pretty
front
funny.
office, trying to steal the show a little bit. And hey, Ullmark is stealing the show now for the Sens. So
Oh, definitely.
so hopefully he won't be out for too long. And then for the rest of the nice list, Brady Tkachuk. Obviously, he's always been great for the Sens, leader, captain, and everything. But just specifically how good he has been since those bogus trade rumors about the New York Rangers trying to get him. He could have reacted in a way that was like, oh, the Rangers want me, they're a way better team than the Sens, which this season they're actually not. The Sens have passed them by this point. But he easily could have been like, oh, it's not going so great here in Ottawa, the Rangers want me, maybe I should try to go to a better team like my brother did, and get into the playoffs that way. But he said no. The team reassured him that they're not looking to trade him, and he has continued to just absolutely be a beast on the ice. The toughness, the grit is amazing. There was a play today where he was in front of the Oilers net just like shoving guys over. He just bowled over like 3 people. He didn't really accomplish much in terms of offense on that play, but I just like that he's showing that fight out there regardless of how the game's going. At all times he's engaged, and a couple games ago against Calgary, taking that brutal high stick to the mouth, and you saw today, like, his lip is still all messed up from that. It's got tons of stitches in there, but he comes back and scores the game-winning goal in overtime. So I just love how Brady Tkachuk has reacted since those trade rumors, and he hasn't let it bother him. He's like raised his game since then, which has been awesome. And then I guess I'll also just quickly go for my third one on the nice list, since I forgot that we pretty much already did all 3 of yours. Chabot as well. Like you mentioned earlier that it's been Chabot's one of his best seasons, which is interesting because he came into the league scoring a lot of points in his rookie season, I think it was, or maybe it was his second year, whatever. After the Sens moved on from Erik Karlsson, it was like, oh, here's this young kid coming in, being able to put up some points from the blue line. And then the expectations on him were really high for a while, where it was like, he was kind of supposed to be the second coming of Karlsson. It didn't end up being that way. He's not that level of player. But then I think that resulted in a lot of scrutiny on him in the market. I think a lot of people are way harder on them than they should be, especially since he hasn't really had good defense partners for most of his tenure in Ottawa. But he finally does this year. And I don't know if this stat still holds true, but a few days ago I did see that Chabot was ranked first in the entire league for defensemen in terms of goals scored while you're on the ice, which is huge. Even though he's not producing like Norris level offensive numbers from the back end, he's having a huge positive impact for the Sens while he's out there. And considering that Jake Sanderson has had a lot of struggles this season, it's just been huge to see Chabot have one of his best seasons ever. So I gotta give him the shout out for my the last of my nice list there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I've been I'm an advanced stat enjoyer. When I've been looking through evolving hockey, like all in one goals above replacement stats, and he's literally top 5 in the league. It's kind of amazing, and he's definitely been a big part of this kind of resurgence over the last month of the Senators, and in a really positive way. And I think a lot of people outside of the Ottawa market aren't noticing that, but that's something that kind of caught me a little off guard when I was like looking into it. But no, he's been a huge bright spot on this team.
So yeah, that's who's getting coal in their stocking and who's getting actual good gifts this year for the Sens and the Oilers. Mostly, like we spend a little bit of time on negativity there, but it's mostly positivity for most of the teams at this point.
Oh, definitely.
Or for both of the teams, I meant to say. So yeah, pretty fun segment there, and we'll get it into our Christmas wish list, which will probably be a little bit of a quicker segment there. After this ad read, which is that Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're working on a page through LaRouche, a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, or our Discord server. And that'll put us into the third segment of the day here. I know we're going a little long. I'm worried my camera is going to die. But in terms of the Christmas wish list, I'll throw it to you first. What is the number one thing on the Oilers' Christmas wish list heading into Christmas time?
I mean, I'll keep it really short. The Oilers are currently wishing for round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I feel like a lot of fans and the entire team just came off one of the most probably story-filled Stanley Cup finals we've had in a very, very long time. I think a lot of them are just eager to get back to it. And, still a long regular season to go. Still got about 40, 50 games left. But, I think in terms of what the Oilers want, they want it to be they want it to be April. They want it to be May.
Yeah, I'm sure it's tough as as the players, obviously, to come back and start a whole new 82 game grind after coming so close in the Cup Finals the last year. But also, like, as a fan too, it must be tough to be like, oh, we were right there, and now we have to go through a whole nother season again to see if we get that chance again. So yeah, I bet you kind of wish you could just kind of skip ahead to the playoffs now, right? Especially because it looks like it looks like the Oilers are in pretty good shape heading forward.
Yeah.
For the Sens, I'm like, it kind of ropes into the naughty list is that I just want them to acquire any right-hand defenseman, literally anyone. I don't care who it is, to just bump Travis Hamonic out of the lineup. But also kind of along the same lines is that I wish for the Sens this Christmas good health for all their players. They've been mostly healthy this season, but the key injuries to Zub and then Olmark got injured today, so who knows what's going to happen with that. And Forsberg is currently injured too, so I mean, if they're both not ready to go when the Sens come back from the Christmas break, that's gonna be a tough, especially because it's a Winnipeg and Minnesota back to back in the next games. I guess you get Merolainen back in there if you have to, but then you might need to call up another goalie as well. So hopefully good health is in store for the Senators after this Christmas break, and hopefully Artem Zub will be back real soon, and then maybe you won't need to acquire right-hand D in that case if the Sens can stay healthy and the guys who are currently injured can come back. And we also haven't seen David Perron in the entire month of December. I hope I think he's dealing with like a back issue is what I read, so hopefully we can see him working his way back into the Sens lineup too, because the other thing that I was thinking for the Sens Christmas wish list is like a scoring left winger, because we've got a little bit of a hole there where we're kind of just rotating guys in and out. Like the right wing spot is pretty set in the top 6 with Batherson and Giroux. Centers are set with Stützle and Norris. On the left wing, it's Tkachuk, and then it's just like a rotating cast of different guys in that spot, like just whatever bottom 6 forwards you can fit in there. So if David Perron is able to come back soon, I feel like maybe you throw him in there and see if he has anything left in the tank at the ripe age of 36.
Yeah.
But if not, scoring left winger. I think that's what I would want the Sens to be looking for if they're buyers at the trade deadline, which for the first time
It looks like they will be.
in 7 years, it seems like a possibility, which that's all I need for Christmas, really. Is it's for once for Sens fans, it's actually a happy Christmas of it, like anticipating the games at the end of December and going into January, because usually we're just already depressed before December even starts. And we were almost there, but December itself has been great for the Sens, and that's like just a huge Christmas gift in itself. The team has given us a Christmas gift to the fans of just exciting hockey, so I'm glad with that. Anything else
Yeah.
on your list for the Oilers?
No, I mean, all I'd say is that I feel like any team, especially the Oilers, would be happy to wake up on Christmas morning with another right-hand defenseman and a scoring left winger. But um, I feel like with the addition of the Brett Kulak and Nurse line, or defensive pairing, I should say, to left-handed defensemen, or left shot, I should say, playing that second pairing and playing it very, very well. Um, looks like the Oilers might not need to go out and get a right-handed defenseman at the trade deadline. Though if they have the cap space, I do think that they should, because you can never be hurting for enough right-handed defensemen in the league these days.
Yeah, unfortunately, Josh Brown isn't quite cutting it, hey, with that
No,
3-year deal.
Ross Brown is not quite cutting it.
That's
Oh,
the former senator. I had to at least mention his name once in this show because I
okay.
still can't believe that he's on a 3-year deal. That's just shocking to me.
I don't know what they did. I don't know who he knows in order to get that
Yeah,
deal.
he's got dirt on
But
someone.
but statistically, the worst player in the NHL last year is still the worst player in the NHL this year when he plays.
And he spent more time in Bakersfield than in
Oh, I mean,
Edmonton,
he's only
right?
been up. He's only been up when we've had an injury to Nurse. So
hmm Yeah, I guess that right-handed D, just no matter if it's top four or third pairing or depth or anything, that's the most coveted position in the NHL, pretty much. So it makes sense that that would end up on both of our Christmas wish lists for the Sens and the Oilers. But hey, overall, it's mostly like, oh, we just want these teams to add a little bit of depth. It's not like, oh, we're missing that star center, or oh, we don't have any goaltending whatsoever. I know the Oilers goaltending is kind of up and down, but and for once the Sens actually have good goaltending. So hey, it's like it's nice to not have a really long Christmas list this time. It's nice that it's just like minor things that we're looking for the teams to add there.
yeah, no, it's a lot of positives all around. For both teams, I think. I think everyone as a fan of these teams right now, currently, with some metrics, the top two teams in Canada. I know Leafs fans might
Oh
be a
my
little
God.
upset, but
Hey,
the Ottawa
we'll
Senators are
see.
playing some really good hockey right now.
Yeah, we'll see
I
how they
think people
finish
should
up.
look out.
We'll see how they finish up the long road trip after the Christmas break. The one nice thing about this 9-game road trip, if there can be anything nice about a 9-game road trip, other than winning on it, is that it's broken up by the Christmas break. So they've got through the first 4 games already with a 3-1 record. If they can even just go like 2-2, 1-1, or like whatever, something like around 500 in the last few games of this road trip, like they're still going to be looking in a pretty good position. And then with that 9-game road trip as well, when you get such a big clump of away games at once, it's going to come back the other way later in the season, where they're going to have a lot of home games later on, which puts them in a really good position to potentially move up in the standings. So yeah, like I don't know if I would quite say the best two teams in Canada yet, but the Sens are trending upward. We know Vancouver is sucking right now. Calgary is surprising, but not like really up at the top. It's going to be interesting. The Sens and Leafs are definitely probably 2 and 3 right now in terms of best teams in Canada, and then the Flames in conversation. Well, you know what? We're forgetting Winnipeg. What the hell are we talking about?
Oh,
Forgetting
you're right.
Winnipeg.
I always forget Winnipeg. You know what? I remember I was watching. I think it was the first game of the season, and there was this playoff this preview before, and it was like, okay, what Canadian teams do you think are going to make the playoffs? And there was this one guy on the panel. I can't remember who it was, but he was like, yeah, I think Winnipeg
Oh,
the standings. And I'm like, are you insane? Are you actually crazy? You think a team that got 100 points is going to like lose 15 and miss the playoffs?
oh my God.
So
So
I don't think Winnipeg is bad. I think Winnipeg is really, really, really good. I just
Yeah,
No, that's my bad.
asterisk is we forgot Winnipeg. So we'll say top three. We'll say top three teams in Canada. We got Winnipeg, Edmonton, and then
Yeah.
toss up at number three maybe. I obviously the
Yeah.
Leafs are ahead for now, so I don't know if any Leafs fans would be listening to this and getting mad at us. Technically, the Leafs are in that top three, but the Sens are coming up behind them. So it's going to be fun seeing how that goes for the rest of the season. And I think the Sens and Leafs have a matchup next month, like in about a month from now. So hopefully that's actually a meaningful. That'll be like could be the first meaningful Battle of Ontario in a long time. So
That would be really nice. That would be
could
really,
be
really nice.
really exciting. Now we're gonna head into our final segment of the night, which will be taking a look at the chat comments. Just before that, I'm going to throw up a preview of our Game Over merch. Now, obviously, I'm streaming on the Edmonton channel at the moment, and I'm showing a slideshow of all of the Ottawa branded merch. But as you see these items here, with the Ottawa branding, there are also Edmonton versions of all of this merch too, with the hoodies, the t-shirts, the beanies, all of that stuff too. And same goes for all 7 Canadian markets. We've got the designs for each of those. I just so happen to have all of the Sens ones loaded in there. If you need to do any last minute Christmas shopping, using the code GO Holidays, we're offering 15% off on all winter products, which is hoodies and the beanies. This is active until Christmas Day, so a couple days left on that code, but there will be a new sale dropping on Boxing Day. So if you're also looking to do Boxing Day shopping instead of Christmas shopping, we will have a new discount coming up for that too. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and we will obviously have that info on the show once that goes live. So yeah, check out the Game Over merch. Now into our final segment, looking at the chat. I don't know if you've had a chance to read through chat at all yet.
I read a little bit.
We've got Ty and David in here. A few people. Did you notice any comments that you wanted to bring up yet?
I just want to say, Edmonton can have Hamannik. No, we do not need CC 2.0. Please, God, do
Oh,
not
God.
let us take Cody CC.
Yeah, if you
again,
thought CC was bad, just Hamannik is on another level. Like CC will at least occasionally do something good, whereas Hamannik
I
it's
don't
like
know about
never.
that.
It's like
I don't
never.
know about that. Have you seen him in San Jose this year? He's real struggling without a real defenseman like Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, I guess so, but like you go to San Jose, and I feel like it's almost impossible to look good on that blue line, right? Like,
Hey, we just played that. I mean, okay, blue line, fair enough.
yeah, they have some good up and coming young forwards, but on the defense right now, the Cody Ceci definitely has no one to play with. So, not that the ceiling is that high when he is playing with someone good, but you did make the cup final with him on your blue line, so it can be done. You can win with Cody
That's true,
Ceci.
but that did require like near 30-minute games from Bouchard and Ekholm,
Yeah.
and some hope from Philip Broberg playing on the second pairing, and a wonderful season from Vincent Desharnais after a pretty poor 2023 playoffs. Someone who I think the Oilers maybe are missing just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back in the chat, Ty said, "Can the Ottawa Senators please get a starting goaltender that either doesn't suck or doesn't get injured worse at the worst possible time? Thank you." So yeah, I'm really interested to see what ends up happening with the Linus Ullmark injury. I don't know if there was any updates after the game with post-game interviews or anything with the coach yet, but yeah, obviously Ullmark doesn't fall into the sucking category, but he has definitely he's had 2 injuries already this season, because his first injury was after just 2 games played, and it was kind of a mysterious one, kind of like this one. It wasn't one where there was an obvious collision or an obvious play where he clearly injured something and then went right off the ice. So I hope that it's not a case of just being really injury prone. Hopefully it's not like a re-aggravated injury. I think last time was a lower body injury, and this time has been reported as upper body at least. So, and I think upper body for goalies is usually less severe than lower body, unless it's a bad concussion, right? So I don't know.
Well, according to Titan Chat, Travis Green said that Ullmark's back tightened up, and so he felt it was best if he came out. So it looks like he made the call himself. He said that I just want to be careful. I don't want to re-aggravate anything. So seems like maybe it was just a game day thing after the first period. So just a bit of a cautionary thing, which with goalies, regular season, totally 100% in support of that. So hopefully he's back after a nice and well-deserved Christmas break.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Ty, for the update there in the chat from Travis Green. Because I did not see that. I don't usually have socials open while I'm streaming. But yeah, it ended up being just minor, which is good. And since he's played so many games recently, they were probably just like, yeah, let's not risk it. Maryland did well enough to get us the win in the previous night, and then it's a tough situation coming in playing 2 nights in a row like that. But if Omar wasn't quite feeling it, it makes sense to just take him out when you're on a 6-game winning streak, and it's like it was kind of already like looking like a bit of a scheduled loss. You weren't really planning on like, oh, we really need to win this game. So I think it's good that they just took him out precautionary, and luckily Maryland did pretty well. Only allowed 2 goals that weren't really his fault. So in the end, sounds like we'll probably be seeing Linus Ullmark back pretty soon by that case, but who knows? We're probably not going to get any more updates till after Christmas. Obviously, it's break time.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Janias McKay in the chat says, "What an awesome win! Vegas needs to lose more often. We need first in the division." So yeah, I was actually surprised when I was checking the standings earlier that Vegas was still ahead of Edmonton, because I was when I was looking to draft a socials post for this, I was like, is Edmonton and Ottawa really the 2 hottest teams in the league? Can I say that when I post a tweet? And it's technically true, with both of them having 8 wins in the last 10 games coming into this game, but also Vegas with 8 wins in the last 10. Those 3 teams. So even though the Oilers are so hot right now, Vegas is just still staying ahead of them, which is tough, eh? That's, on one hand, it's frustrating, but also on the other hand, it's good that they're doing really well, because you don't want to face them in the first round either.
Yeah, I mean, a Vegas series I think would be a very intense series for the Oilers, and a little bit I don't want to say scary, but it would definitely feel really bad if we had to face them early and they beat us. But but facing the Golden Knights on the way to a cup win would feel so nice. So that's all I can say. Hope for a conference final. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's at least, like, it's rough that Vegas is doing so well and staying ahead of you, but at least the Pacific Division isn't like totally stacked. Like, the Kings are doing pretty well, but the Oilers can handle them. They've shown before that they can handle them. At least it's like, it's not like one of those totally stacked divisions like the Atlantic has been up until this year. Like, I mean, the Atlantic is still tough, but I feel like I just think it's worse just because the Sens are doing good now. I'm like, they're close to Boston, they're close to Tampa, so that must mean that the division is worse now, and it's not just the Sens being better. Maybe that's just me being a little bit too negative, but yeah, at least the Oilers, they're at least putting themselves in a position to get first in the division there, which is good to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I'm really high on the Senators right now. I think that like if they continue playing like this, they are going to be a better team than the Lightning, and even maybe the Bruins, who I think aren't having the best year. They both have kind of identical records. They've both been playing at a similar record over the last 10. Both Lightning and Bruins have won 7 of their last 10. But the Bruins they have a negative goal differential by -17.
Mm-hmm.
They are allowing a lot of goals and they're not scoring all that much. So I think if you're a Bruins fan, there's a lot of like warning signs. And I think that if the Senators are looking to take a spot in the Atlantic, I think that's the team that's going to fall off.
I'm a bit salty that they're not scoring too much, just because I drafted Pasternak in fantasy, and I'm really mad about it because he decided to just stop scoring goals. He's like, I'm a playmaker now, and I'm just going to have the worst shooting percentage in the entire league, because he still leads the league in shots, which is insane, and he doesn't even have 10 goals. He has like 9 goals or something.
That's crazy.
Which is pissing me off, but at least for the purposes of the Sens' success, hopefully the downfall of Boston continues. And that goal differential is just crazy, because maybe it's just that they've had a lot of blowout losses. I think there was that game against Winnipeg that was like 8-1, and then their next game was Seattle losing 5-1, where that's like a huge hit on the goal differential. Like, that's minus like 12 or something right there already, just in those 2 games. But then they bounced back on the road trip. Come from behind win against Calgary. They did get a point against Edmonton, and they destroyed Vancouver too. So I don't know. Boston's a weird team. I'm hoping that they do continue to have a downfall, but they seem to at least have enough left in them that they're going to make it tough for the Sens, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably gonna do it for tonight, unless you had any other things from chat that you wanted to comment on.
Nah, I think no, I think that's good for me. I mean, two Canadian teams looking like they're playing better hockey every day. I feel like you got to be really happy if you're a fan of either of these teams tonight.
Definitely. So it's a pretty positive note to send us off into the Christmas break for both Game Over Ottawa and Game Over Edmonton. And yeah, for coming up for Game Over Edmonton, you're going to be, we don't know the scheduling yet, but you're going to be on this channel a lot more often, eh? So
Oh, definitely. I had a pretty good schedule, so I'm gonna be around quite a bit. So hopefully you guys enjoy the show today. Um, and I'll be seeing you guys around quite a bit in the future.
yeah, we're so happy to have you as part of the team.
Thank you.
And yeah, that'll do it for tonight. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video. Subscribe to Game Over Edmonton and Game Over Ottawa if you are not already. If you enjoyed, share the stream around to your friends. Thank you everyone so much for watching or listening. Have a good night.
Yeah, have a good night.